Um, you know, uh, People often ask me, Elon, how did you become who you are? And I always think it's not just one moment or one idea. It's people, people who shaped me, broke me, pushed me, inspired me. And today I want to share that side of the story. Because behind every so-called genius, every risk, every rocket, there are people who made it possible directly or indirectly. This episode is not about rockets or cars. It's about the humans behind the drive. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see a bit of yourself in these stories. Let's start with my mom, Musk, a woman who taught me resilience, not by telling me, but by showing me. She was a model, yes, but she was also a dietitian, a single mom of three, and a fighter. We moved from South Africa to Canada when I was 17. And I remember sleeping on the floor of a tiny Toronto apartment, no furniture, no money, just ambition. She'd work long hours and still find time to ask how we were doing, not in a distant way, but really checking in. That taught me two things. One, hardship isn't an excuse. And two, leadership starts at home. Let me ask you, who's been that voice of strength in your life? Because when everything around you is chaos, you need one person who believes in you. Find that person, and if you can't be that person for someone else. Now, here's a name that changed the trajectory of my life. Kimball Musk. My younger brother, my first co-founder. Most people don't realize this, but Zip2, our first startup, it wasn't built in a glamorous office. We coded it out of a tiny rented office space, barely had money for food. We used to sleep in the same room. One of us would code, the other would rest. Then we'd switch. It was grind, pure grind. But Kimball brought joy to it. He had a different energy. He reminded me that what we were doing mattered. Even when investors laughed us out the door, lesson, surround yourself with people who are crazy enough to believe in your vision, even when it looks like insanity. Here's a simple method I use even today. Whenever I take on something that looks impossible, I ask myself, who are the 5 people closest to me right now? Are they building with me, or are they holding me back? That's a question you can ask yourself too, because you don't rise alone. There's another person, Justine Wilson, my first wife. We met at Queen's University, and even though things didn't last romantically, she shaped me in one of the most powerful ways. She called out my blind spots. You see, when you're obsessed with solving problems, you can forget the human cost. She reminded me that people matter more than productivity. That empathy isn't weakness, it's a multiplier of impact. Let me tell you something you might not expect to hear from me. Intelligence alone won't change the world. Compassion will. So if you're chasing success, great. But don't forget to connect. Try this tonight before bed. Text someone who helped you grow and say thank you. Watch what happens. Now, let's shift to someone a bit more distant, but no less impactful. Richard Feynman. I never met him, obviously, but his books, his lectures changed my brain. Feynman had this incredible method, the Feynman technique, where you teach something to yourself as if you were explaining it to a child. And I adopted that. It's how I learn. Break down every complex idea to its first principles. No assumptions, no fluff. This helped me not just in building SpaceX, but in thinking clearly. So if you're ever overwhelmed by a big goal, ask yourself, what's the core truth here? What's real? What assumptions am I carrying that might be wrong? That's the beginning of innovation. Not from knowing more, but from questioning better. Here's a fun story. At Tesla, we once had a group of engineers telling me it was impossible to bring down battery costs. I said, break it down. What is a battery? Chemically. We went layer by layer. Suddenly, the impossible became just inefficient sourcing, not physics, just logistics. Lesson, never accept. That's just how it is. Ask why, then ask again. Now, I want to talk about a person who changed my entire sense of mission. My son, Nevada, he passed away when he was just 10 weeks old. It broke me in a way I can't even describe. But in that darkness, I realized something. Time is fragile, life is short, and our purpose has to be bigger than us. That pain didn't destroy me, It refocused me. That's when SpaceX stopped being a cool idea and became a necessity. I don't want humanity to be limited to one fragile planet. I want us to become multiplanetary, not for glory, but for survival. So if you've ever been through grief, use it, not to harden yourself, but to clarify your mission. Let your pain shape your purpose. Let me ask you something real. What's the thing that hurt you most? And how can you use it to help someone else? Let's talk about mentors. Ironically, I didn't have many traditional mentors, but I studied people like Steve Jobs, Edison, Franklin, von Braun. I reverse engineered their thinking, not just what they did, but how they made decisions. Here's a method. Every month, pick one historical figure, read their biography, ask, what would they do differently in my shoes? Make it a habit. That's how you build a virtual board of directors in your mind. And if you're thinking, but I'm just one person, so was everyone at the start? Greatness doesn't require permission. Now, let me hit you with a few don'ts. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't expect validation. Don't confuse motion with progress. You can spend a whole year planning and not move an inch. Here's what I do. Every Sunday, I write down the one bottleneck that's holding everything back. Then I focus 80% of my time on that. That's how I prioritize. Simple, ruthless, effective. Ask yourself right now, what's your bottleneck? Write it down, fix that. Everything else gets easier. As we wrap this conversation, I want to remind you, I'm not special. I've just failed more than most. I've been broke. I've been doubted. I've been exhausted, but I kept going. And I had people, some close, some distant, who shaped me, from Mai to Kimball, from Justine to Feynman, from Nevada to every engineer who told me it couldn't be done.